All right, Julie, I am so excited to have you here and to chat about your journey, where you came from. You are a long hauler. I think it's been 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, in July.
Yeah, it's been 3 years.
Yeah,
Wow. Yes.
time flies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about you a little bit. Start off by telling us, like, taking us back 3 years, right? Reached
Yeah.
out to me before we had that conversation. Like, where were you at?
Yeah, thanks. So I was doing CrossFit and loved it, had an amazing community around me,
Hmm.
and was going at 6 a.m. in the morning and was strong. I had a good, I think I had a pretty strong physique.
Hmm.
And I also have two teenagers in the house at the time. And I needed to, really make sure that the time that I spent in the gym was quality time. And there
Hmm.
was sort of a feeling like there are things that I don't know about, and like conversations about, good fats and when to eat the fats. And like there's always that banter when you're with your friends. And one of my friends was already working with, I think it was with you. And
Hmm.
she was talking about like, oh, it's all about the food. It's all about the food. And I've never had, an issue with food. And I've never had an issue with gaining weight. So for me, it wasn't about, losing weight. It was always about maximizing what you have to eat, literally have to eat to be as strong and as um, um, working towards your like fitness goals and being able to
Yeah.
perform, right? So, because of that, conversations that I was kind of hearing about, and I thought, why not me? Why don't I just call? She had posted some pictures and had tagged you.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's how I found out who she was working with. I didn't really ask her before I called you. I just did it, which was a
Yeah.
little out of my comfort zone, to be honest. So,
I
yeah.
love that you said that. I love that you said a lot of things because I think when you say I didn't have a problem with food, a lot of women that come to us do kind of have a problem, quote unquote, which means like overeating, right? Or being overweight. And then in that case, it's like, hey, there's a clear pattern here. But for you, you're health minded. You didn't have an issue with weight. Like you were already working out. So I always tell you this. It's like you were a lot of people's after goal. And by all means, you were in a good place. But I like that you said that you're like, but I want to be in a better place, right? Like I want to optimize. So I guess what were your biggest drivers that kind of made you seek out like I want more now?
Yes, so the biggest drivers that I want more now are I was getting older. I'm now in my 50s, so I wasn't then. And
Hmm.
I just felt like there was a lot of opportunity that I didn't know about. And my drivers were, you don't know what you don't know. And you
Mm.
can see people around you. I think I had been to see a nutritionist, and you could see people around you were talking in like little pieces, and I read a book and you're starting to understand, and it's like I don't have time to study this. I don't have time to figure this out. Why wouldn't I just seek out like expert advice, if you will? So that was my driver, and that's actually how I started with CrossFit too, very similar. It
Right.
was near a routine that I usually did. I drove by, I had seen people, they looked and felt happy when I walked by, and they were doing a nutrition challenge. And so I joined because of the nutrition challenge, and I learned a lot about macros like early on.
Right.
So I had like a that really, so I had started like at the bottom,
Yeah.
not working out regularly, spent the 2 or 3 years in the gym consistently, also during the pandemic, right? So, after that, and then now here I was, pretty fit, able to do some of the things, and knowing that there was a lot of banter and sound, I'm going to call it noise,
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
things that I really never heard of or talked about or learned about. And it seemed like I was leaving a lot on the table, if you will.
Yes, and there's a phrase that applies very well to that. That's like when you know nothing, you feel like you don't know what you don't know, like you said. I'm
Mhm.
gonna butcher this, but something to the effect of like when you learn a little bit about something, then you just then realize like, oh, there's more, there's a whole other world here that I can be opened up to, right? So you're hearing the sound bites of, oh yeah, what about this? Like what about the fats, the macro, like all these things that you're introduced to that now you saw the gaps. So
Yeah, people were talking about putting, I forget what it was called, but like something in their coffee was like a coconut oil.
the
I'm
MCT
sure
oil.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
MCT. So I got that and like I just couldn't digest it. It was terrible for me. I was like, that's
Oh
not going to
yeah.
help. Actually, that made things much worse. So that's when I really started to realize that like, hey, yeah. So I clicked on the photo, saw your link, went into your profile, and loved what you represented, things you talked about, your mindset. For me, it's your mindset that really attracts me,
Mm,
and you are doing all the things that like I'm doing. I'm working, I have kids, and prioritizing health means you have to make decisions on what you're not going to do so that you can say yes to certain things. So like go to bed so you can get up. Leave the
yes.
room a little bit messier than you would have if you stayed up for an extra hour to make it perfect. And that's just part of the process of making it important in your life, right? It's like you can't do everything, so you do what is
Yes.
important and you make that a priority, and then other things eventually fall into place. That's how I got here.
I love that. And obviously you value efficiency and obviously like I'm on that page too, right? And that's so important for women like yourself who have full lives, right? Like I would
Mhm.
say most of the women that come to us, but especially if you're that type of person that does like you're a high achiever, you do so much, you want to spend the time you have in the gym in the way that's going to leave you the best results from that. So like
Yeah.
what are some milestones that you achieved along the way, Julie? I guess starting off
Yeah.
early, like what were the early ones that you're like, oh, cool, like I'm making
Yeah.
some progress here.
Well, I can eat a lot more food. Not
Mhm.
that I sometimes struggle with that. You know that we've had these conversations. After so I continued with CrossFit. You didn't eliminate that. I
Yep.
would say milestones are very individualized coaching. You really listen. We have every 2 weeks where I complete a pretty detailed form, and what I share to you is valuable because then you have something to work with and share back.
Hmm.
And so with that, I've had some really good individualized goals. So I kept up with my CrossFit. So I, instead of doing the scaled version, there's kind of a music sound that goes on in my head when I think about the scaled version. I was able to compete with the RX version, not super, obviously like it's very competitive, but like I was pretty proud that I could do, handstand push-ups and like full, sets of um, of pull-ups, and it
Yes.
was just really, really good. So I was able to do those things before, but I was for sure better at it because it was nourished. Like just
Yes, fueling
basically,
properly.
yeah, like fueling for performance, which I absolutely had never done before. So
Yes.
that was my first sort of big layer was eating properly, consistently, not just for a couple of days and then falling off, but like doing it for weeks and months on end. And then really lifting heavy, like going into the gym and like having a very individualized plan that was goal oriented. So you knew what I was working on for my performance goals. And, I found a gym nearby and it was not expensive. My kid would be doing something and I would be doing specific exercises within that like 45 minutes or hour that I had. And they were create I want to say crafted, they were crafted by you to support those fitness goals that I had. And in the interim I also was able to build a much better physique. That's kind of a side note. I think sometimes that might be a driver, but for me it wasn't a driver. It's like a real like a tie on the top of the gift. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you get to look good too. So I felt really good. So that was the first thing, was feeling good, eating well, and better performance for sure. With my friends who are very strong, like the
Right.
athletes that I was working out with are pretty high performing and they compete even at other competitions. So I found that very rewarding. And honestly, that confidence, I can do it. Like today, I deadlifted X number of pounds. So whatever you throw at me, world, I can do that because I already did this like in the morning and I can do that. So really very good for confidence. And I guess another individualized goal that I had, the question was about goals, was, I've never been a good runner and I've been in fitness and a lot of fitness is built around cardio. Even though
Yep.
it's about strength and skill, there's a lot of cardio. And I thought, I can get a pair of running shoes. I'm sure I can figure out how to run better. I mean, just move your feet faster. Well,
Yes.
there's a lot to it.
Exactly.
And I never really appreciated that it was such a full body sport. So we started to work on that together. And, I did what I always did. I signed up for a bunch of races every summer, and I was starting to see some progress. And then I decided, the world seems to put a lot of emphasis on like distance. So maybe I'll do a half marathon because that's like the 21 kilometers. That seems like impossible, but I could probably do that.
Oh yeah.
So I did. And I timed it so that it was like after a lean out. I think we had done the photo shoot in November. And then I was on my journey to train all winter and do
Yes.
a half marathon, which I never like. I'm not a runner. I still say that I'm not a runner.
But you are.
And
Yeah.
I didn't do it super fast, but I did it. And I will do it again, actually, because now I want to see if I can run it like actually a race, like run it faster.
Right. Well, that's what I love about you is you're always raising the bar, right? And that I think that's why we collaborate so well is because I think for a lot of the time when we start out, it's like we just think, okay, I just want to get to the next thing and just see the next thing in front of me, right? So for you, it was like, okay, you see right away, it's like the CrossFit's getting better as a result of more muscle and more strength and nutrition, right? Like it's all of it synergistically. And that's another thing too, which I want to point out is that like a lot of the time we think it's only one thing. But then when you actually have a strategy, it's like, oh, it's not actually the one thing, it's everything together. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and that, like you said, that translated to the performance, which translated into like, hey, I'm also looking better now because I'm more effectively building muscle in the right areas and changing your body composition. So, I love how all those things kind of like stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
And like,
And it's true. That
yeah,
is true. All it does, it's very connected.
yeah. And I was gonna say like, and I don't want to gloss over this part either. You also did the photo shoots, two of
I
them
did.
that you were
Yeah.
like, I want,
So,
yeah, talk about that.
yeah. So, part of the reason I called you and got in touch with you was the whole, well, if not now, then when? Like literally, what's your problem? Like, why aren't you gonna just do it?
Yeah.
And I think our community really inspires that. And to be honest, I never thought I would. I didn't have Facebook before we worked together, and I joined only for the community, which has been fabulous. Um, and that was something that, others were doing. And, I've always been very inhibited and like, cover your body. And yeah, so I realized I could do a fitness shoot and still be like comfortable. And so I was like, well, if not now, when? Like, what are you waiting for? Just do it. Just try. And I kind of heard that little part of me, and I was like, well, then just do it. Like, what are you so afraid of? And I think that's a lot of what I've learned about this process is if you're thinking about it, there's a little star, thing. You should,
Hmm.
act on it. And if it doesn't go quite like you like, or it doesn't go, or it's turning out to be, I won't get into the examples, but there are examples where I'm like, nay, that's not for me. Like, I don't want to run a marathon. I know
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
could, but I know that I don't want to put the time in. And I know that how much time to do it is going to be necessary to not get hurt. It's a good example, actually. But at the same time, I've been able to kind of explore that. So yeah. I mean, doing the photo shoot was something I thought I would never do. Doing this call is something that I thought I would never do. Just putting yourself out there and making time and being a little bit uncomfortable to move forward and progress is, I think, a big part of how I got to where I'm at in my life as a career. And it's also a part of being, fitness and moving forward with goals. And yes, I did the photo shoot. I did two of them. And I'm signed
Yeah.
up to do a third, which
Oh
again,
yeah.
there was that little voice where I was like, oh, I should do that. Okay, we'll do that.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know what? What you're saying, I just want to like shout it from the rooftops because I've seen so many women get held back from that fear, right? And we all have fear,
of
right?
course. Yeah.
Like there's always that element of like if someone told you from day one, you're gonna do like three photo shoots and you're gonna be, in a magazine, you're gonna do like
Yeah.
a half marathon, like, you might think like, am I? Like, am I really gonna be doing that? But it's just taking that next step. And I want to give you props to that because I think these things are kind of like somewhat scary or uncomfortable, but that voice in
Mm-hmm.
your head is like, but you got to do them. Like you got to still take that next step.
Yeah. Yeah. And you need to decide like why do you want to do them? They need to
Yeah.
really be for me, a lot of what I've been doing with my fitness has been about, the future and being my best version of myself. And your the why has to be for me, the why has to be very grounded because then you're true to yourself. You're like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I feel certain thing. And then when you're doing it, you feel like, okay, I'm nervous and I feel uncomfortable, but I'm grounded. I know why I'm doing it. I've got my 2 feet on the floor. I've
Right.
got my reasons, literally, like my feet are my reasons. I've got the 2 reasons, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point actually talking about your why because you are like someone who again some people they just want to get to a certain level of health and then for you I feel like it's yes you want to be healthy but also you want optimal, right? Like that's kind of your driver is to be the best version of yourself. So what would you say is your biggest driver?
Um, well, I would say health and well-being is my biggest driver. Um, I also think that looking good is having to now is now a nice driver.
Yeah, why not?
Um, I feel better, but I also know that I look better. But my most important driver is to build muscle because there is a lot of science that supports that. It's not just about aesthetics.
Hmm.
And I believe in the science. It's pretty well grounded now. And there's a lot of books, and a couple come to mind that are very popular. And it regulates blood sugar. It has to do with like your posture and how you sit, which I've noticed a big change in. Um, it has to do with your bone density as well, because lifting heavy is very important for building your skeletal system. And it also has to do with cognitive health too, right? Which is probably a more hormone and inflammation regulation, both cliche type words. But with getting older and having, especially with women, there's a lot of changes that are happening sort of in that 10 to 15-year window. And
Hmm.
then now you're in your 60s, and we have people in our group that are in their 60s, and they're just like hugely inspiring. I mean, the talk about performance. So that's been very much my why. And yeah, there is no end, right? Like the why is you're doing it and there is no end. It's a continuous. So you can stay in the group as long as you want. And I like the group. I find it very, um, well, I like setting individual goals with you. And I feel like the time I'm spending, I have 45 minutes, for example, this morning. The time I'm spending is a good 45 minutes. I know why I'm doing it. It's part of a bigger plan. And so it's not like questionable. I'm just going to do it. And I pack my food for the day, which I've been doing and I did that before. But I know that I am getting the right amount of fiber because right now I'm doing a fiber challenge. And for me, those types of challenges have been like not a challenge because it's hard. It is a little bit hard. But what's been really important about it is it's been like, why do we think those things are important? Like a couple of challenges we've done were like walking, or which can get a little excessive, but like walking is great because it's daily movement. And like we
Yeah.
need daily movement. And so by doing those challenges, for example, the fiber one now, you realize the continuum of doing it and like what that feels like. And so it's not just like fiber is important. Fiber feels good. Fiber makes me feel better. Fiber is
Yes,
important. Someone didn't just tell
absolutely.
me that. I didn't just read it. I actually felt it. So then later on after the challenge, because the challenge will end, fiber is still important. Like I will eat arugula or whatever, green tea, because it's important, not because the book told me, but because I felt it. And that's the benefit of doing, that's the why. For me, that's the why.
Yeah, I love that. You're very driven by like obviously the you want efficiency for what you're doing to get the maximum reward and knowing that what you're doing is adding up is keeping you going. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love that.
And the coaching guides that, and like you're so smart the way you do it with your podcast. They connect so many times. I've listened to them. Like I wish all my friends would listen to your podcast, because there's just so much that is around us that's very distracting and not really relevant and not individualized. Like you need a program that works for you. Like you need a program that works for you, for your life, for what you want to achieve, for who you want to be. And starting it like and not waiting because they're if not now when, right? Literally.
Yeah, those are such wise words. I absolutely love this. And the